Next, we will be hearing from Great River Landing's architect, James Garrett Jr. James, according to his website, I'm going to say what he says here, artistically creates technologically advanced, resilient design that articulates an evolving comprehension of the 21st century city. As a visual artist, writer, and architect, he creatively expresses the urban condition through inspired design. His work employs diverse media to explore complex theoretical topics from a unique ethno-experiential perspective. Having heard James talk about Great River Landing before, I can guarantee you what he's about to go into will explain everything that I just said. But I want to point out one other thing. James has a number of awards listed on the website of his company Formula, but not yet listed there is the fact that just a couple weeks ago, he was awarded his profession's highest honor, the AIA Minnesota Gold Medal. He and his partner are the first Black architects and the youngest architects ever to receive this award. On behalf of Beacon, I would like to congratulate him on this tremendous honor and welcome him to this call. James.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Craig. And thank you, everybody who's here. I know a number of you over the years from working on this project in various capacities, whether it was fundraising, whether it was the support that you guys lent when we were going to community meetings, when the project was in front of the city council. So many of you guys showed up and really put your weight behind this effort. And that work really helped grease the wheels for the design that sort of followed and the construction process that culminated in the building that we have in front of us. And I'm very proud of our work with you guys, our partnership with you guys, and with Better Futures. I'd like to take a little bit of time to just run you through the design process and sort of talk you through some of the really important spaces and some of the important features of the building. Hopefully you'll be able to get a picture, a more complete picture, when you see the other videos and the tour that's upcoming, and you'll be able to have a greater appreciation for our process and our partners and the way all the different pieces kind of came together. So I'm going to share my screen now. Yes. So Great River Landing was really a labor of love for us at Formula. This project really intersected with a number of very important things that our community struggles with. The criminal justice situation, criminal justice reform, low income and supportive housing, and really just dealing with a population that's trying to transition themselves and get themselves back into the workforce and back into community and society in a productive way. So this is something that was a passion for us. We appreciate the opportunity to serve you, and we hope that the building that we've sort of left with has a legacy of positivity and great memories and great experiences for the people that are going to live there. I think the most important part that I want to start out with is the design process does not start with putting pen to paper. For us, the design process begins with formulating and organizing the proper team to be able to take on the challenge that was in front of us. And so for each project, we select unique partners to be able to sort of carry the ball forward in different ways, with everyone playing a different and really important role. So the first thing that I'll say is that we had the core Formula team that you see there in the middle, which was myself as design architect, with my business partner, Nathan Johnson, as the project architect, with Lissa Washington as our wonderful, super detail-oriented project manager, with my beautiful wife, Paola Sanchez Garrett, as a design technician on this project, and Michael Lima, who really runs our New York office. He's based out in New York now, but he was here and he was the project designer that assisted me. So that was our core team. And we realized that there were some things that we were lacking, and we wanted to go out and bring in people that would fill in the gaps and fill in the holes and make our team as complete as possible. The first person that we brought in was Rosemary Delata, who was with Concentric Architecture at the time. She is a specialist in affordable housing compliance. She's been on both sides of it. She's been on the nonprofit housing side, and she's also been on the city government side. So she understands the compliance challenges in a way that we thought was really superb. And so she agreed to partner with us. That really set us at ease to make sure that she was going to see the blind spots and see some of the things that maybe we didn't see coming, as this was our first supportive housing, affordable housing project. And most importantly, I think Roger Cummings, we brought in Roger Cummings from Juxtaposition Arts, who's one of my close friends, one of my high school friends, frequent collaborator and co-conspirator in all things artistic. And we wanted him and his vision and his ideas to really help us get to know the men in the program and to really understand who we were designing for and why, right? Because when you start to understand that and you have a fundamental understanding of that, then all the decisions that you start to make sense. As you know, Beacon Interfaith Housing was partnered with Better Futures Minnesota, which made it really interesting for us because we essentially had two clients. So on one hand, we had a housing developer who had, a certain set of concerns and things that they're responsible for. But then on the other hand, we also had a service provider who was going to actually be, living in the space, managing the space, and running programs out of the space. And so we had to make a space that served both of those needs. And sometimes those were distinct needs and competing needs. Here we are. This was the first meeting that we hosted. It was the kickoff meeting. And we have Roger Cummings here and Lissa Washington running the meeting. We really wanted to introduce this arts-based engagement process that we're kind of known for now, but it was a new thing 4 years ago. And it was something that, people had to get used to. So we want to have a kickoff meeting with the decision makers and folks from Beacon staff and also Better Futures decision makers and their staff, and just have some activities where we got to know each other. We talked about our values, our shared values, and basically we said we want to hold everyone accountable to the values that they're expressing, and we want to be able to create a process around that. So it was really important that we say that this process is going to be unique. It's going to be different. Please bear with us. We're going to get to a good place. Through that first meeting, you can see the upper photos. We did button making, and we each went around the circle, and Roger asked us, what are the values that we're bringing to the table? What are the things? Who do we feel like we are, and what are the things that we feel like are important? And why are we here? Why do we do this difficult work? And so everyone had a chance to say who they were and what they thought about themselves and their role in the process. And then, we had some fun and we made buttons, and everybody got to wear the buttons. And then when you had the button on, then that meant that you had to be accountable to the things that you said that you were going to do and the role that you said that you were going to play in the process. So that's how we kicked off things. It was a great meeting. I think it was a lot of fun. We got to know each other. And then the second meeting that we had for engagement, Roger really ran that with just staff, primarily from Better Futures, to get to know the folks that we're going to be working with, the folks that live there. And so the people providing the services to the residents are super important. We wanted to center them in this process too, say that they're significant, and we wanted to hear their concerns, their ideas, their hopes and aspirations as well. And so did some fun activities, some painting and some just creative stuff, and just got to know one another. The next set of 4 meetings, we really wanted to center the men in the program. We wanted to really say that you guys are important, you guys are significant. And it may have been that in a lot of these guys' lives, no one had asked them their opinion or asked them what they were interested in, what they wanted, what they struggled with. we wanted to make sure that we centered them in their experiences and their traumas and their hopes, and their ideas. And we did a series of fun activities with them. Roger led them in sort of different found object sculptures, and gave them a chance to talk about some of the things that they wanted to do and the things that they were interested in. One of the most important things about the process was that we started to really learn through repetition. Really, there were themes that started to repeat themselves over and over. And so as Roger and I talked and we debriefed, we started to come up with some ideas and themes. And so I asked him to begin to create some graphic icons that talked very specifically about some of the really important themes that started to come up over and over again. The first one was love. That was something that was very important to the men in the program. It came up over and over. The next one was faith. That was something that also was a recurring theme and was sort of at the core of a lot of their lived experience. That's how they made it through the situations that they went through in order to even be here. And then family support was something that really came up over and over again. These guys talked about their kids constantly. It was something that we really had to sit back and rethink our program and our initial design concepts, because it didn't consider the importance of family and kids. This building, we decided, needed to be a family building after sort of going through this process of getting to know the guys. Acceptance, future change, and inclusion were the other topics that sort of came up, and the things that were really important to these guys. So once we kind of made it through that process and we began to get this information and this feedback, we wanted to really think clearly about areas in which we could integrate these concepts and these ideas and infuse them into the building itself. So we thought about ways to sort of mark that entrance, that main entry, and make it special and make it really stand out, and to give it a sense of pride and a sense of dignity about coming home. And so we looked at the faith piece, and we found a way to sort of abstract that faith piece and cut it into strips and integrate those strips into that main entry. We also backlight our buildings. We use these color changing LEDs that can start to really express a changing sort of relationship between the people on the inside and the world. These color changing lights give them the ability to say how they're feeling, what mood they're in. They can set it on a cycle that just repeats itself and creates patterns. For special holidays, they can set it at a certain color and say, hey, we're celebrating in here. So it was a fun thing, and it was something that we thought gave them a lot of control over their environment. And for people that have been incarcerated and haven't had much control over their lives and over their environment, we thought that this was especially important and poignant. The next thing that we thought was important was to bring that concept onto the inside of the building, and to be able to create, again, a lighting situation that was changeable. If you look over here, there's a small control there. They can change the lights themselves, express the mood that they're in, express the joy that they're feeling, the sadness, whatever. But it was another fun way to be able to have some control over their environment, the environment that they're calling home. Another really important piece is that one of the things that the guys do at Better Futures is deconstruction. So they do architectural deconstruction. They deconstruct buildings and houses and farm buildings and structures, and they do architectural salvage, and they save those really important pieces, and they're able to resell them in their own space on Minnehaha Avenue. They have a reuse center. And so one of the things that we wanted to commit to early was integrating the work that these guys do into the public areas of the building. We wanted them to see this every day. We wanted everyone that came to visit to see the fruits of these guys' labor. We wanted them to be featured, to be centered, and to say, hey, there's beauty and dignity in what they do. We feel like there's healing in art, there's also healing in work. And so we wanted to show that off and really have that relationship with the rest of the world. So this is the front lobby space. This is made up of wood that they pulled out of different buildings and structures. One of the instructions that they gave me as we were getting ready to install this was that they said, hey, we don't want this to be too beautiful. said, you know what, we've had a lot of problems in our lives. We're imperfect people. We don't want it to look or feel too perfect. We think there's beauty in imperfection though. Can you make it beautiful but not perfect? And I said, you know what, let me see what we can do. So we came up with this pattern where we mix different types and different species of wood. So we've got birch and we've got pine and we've got maple. We've got all these different types of wood that normally would never be mixed, right? And then we have different size and lengths and widths of wood, and we created sort of a mosaic. So it kind of has a rustic look. It doesn't quite, everything doesn't quite look the same, but it kind of starts to fit together and feel together. And when you add the lighting into it, it starts to really create an environment that feels welcoming and warm. And it's a space that the guys like to stand there and they like to sort of be in that environment. So I feel like, you know, maybe we got it right there because, you know, they said beauty and imperfection. And so that's what we tried to produce. We also carried this theme onto the reception desk. We wanted to make sure the reception desk also had the same sort of reclaimed lumber of different widths and sizes and lengths, and we wanted to give it a similar feel. Here's just sort of looking at that area near the mailboxes. This is bringing that same sort of gesture, welcoming people with this wood into the community space where meals happen every day in the morning and in the evening. And this is a place where guys gather and they talk to one another and fellowship and get to know each other. We wanted this to be very sort of public. We wanted people to see these guys getting together and eating together and being together. We wanted to show that off. So it's at the corner of the building right on 5th Street. And we wanted to make it a space that was really proud, that they could really take pride in and be proud of. This is the classroom space. This is the gym space. We know that with trauma, it strikes and it happens. Anxiety happens at any time of the night. We wanted to create a space that guys could always feel like they could go to burn off some calories or burn off some extra energy if they couldn't sleep, if they were having, you know, some issues, that this was a space that they could use physical activity to help them treat their trauma. This is a space that started out as a showroom space and it sort of evolved into a showroom / conference room. So again, we've got the reclaimed wood all over the place on the floors, you know, on the knee wall there. We've got a 2-sided fireplace that heats up and warms up and can be seen from the outside. The idea is that this is going to be a portal from the neighborhood into the space to allow the neighbors in the North Loop to get to know these guys for the furniture, for the reclaimed wood, for all these interesting products that they have. And so that they could get to know their neighbors as the guys that do the cool stuff and not as though the scary guys that have been to prison, right? So this was something that, you know, we presented and promoted to the community. The community really responded well to this. And this was a really important piece of why they wanted to approve and unanimously support this project in the neighborhood. This is an art plan that Roger and I came up with. We looked at how do we express these concepts, these 6 really important concepts that the men over and over talked about and discussed during their time together. So we wanted to do it vertically. So the entry to the building has the faith piece and it welcomes you into the space. And then we wanted each floor as you moved up in the same place, in the same way, to be welcoming, to be dynamic, to be colorful, to be beautiful. And so we really started in the basement with the red and we moved on up and have different pieces that are associated with each floor. So ultimately the building itself, instead of denoting itself by floors, by numbers and letters, would denote and express itself by colors and by symbols, positive symbols that represent and reflect the story and the experiences as told by the men. So this piece right here is the love piece. This is the foundation. This is literally in the garage, in the basement. This is something that we really wanted to highlight and say, this is where, you know, people come in, they enter the building through the garage and they come up. The first thing that they see and that they're exposed to is love. This is on the main floor. So just above that, when you go up the stairs and the elevator core and you get out at the main floor, this is the faith piece, all together as one. As I said, it was sort of abstracted and integrated into the exterior facade there at the entry, but this is what the piece is all together. We created these didactics. This one explains the art process and Roger's process working with the men and the importance of the process and why we think that this is significant. And then on the left side of each piece on each floor, we have another didactic that explains what the piece is and what it means, what it's called and what it means. So this is Faith. This is the ground floor. This is where, you know, so much really great stuff happens. And we thought that this was the most important element of the artistic project. This is the next floor up. This is the second floor directly above that. It's called Acceptance. Just adjacent to Acceptance is the children's playroom. Again, we learned from the men that getting back with their children, getting back in touch with their families was their most important priority. And so we really started to prioritize children. We were early enough in the design process when we were engaging and having these conversations that we could squeeze some square foot out of here and out of there and move some stuff around. And we actually were able to create this really nice space for children. And there's books in there now. There's some toys and Legos and things. But we really wanted to have a space that kids would want to come and visit their dads, and they would want to come back and say, I had a great time. I can't wait to come back and continue getting to know my father. And so this, again, this space was born out of the engagement process that we did. This is just a look at it's a 2-level space for gathering. It's essentially a lounge for residents. And as you can see, there's some doors here. There are offices that kind of are for staff, from Better Future staff, so that they're not all completely segregated, that there's some staff on some of the living floors as well. So if there's problems, if there's challenges, it's easier to engage, and they know that they're not alone. There's always some help that's just, you know, down the hall, and they don't have to go all the way to a different floor in order to get some assistance if they're having a challenge or a problem. So this one here is family support. So this is the 3rd floor. And then this is a typical unit. So we took the same color scheme and you know, we highlighted one of the accent walls on each floor so that it corresponded and correlated with the art piece that meets you at the stair and at the elevator. So humble, simple spaces, but you know, they're well appointed. They have everything that a guy would need to live self-sufficiently. If you go up to the next floor, we have a piece here called Inclusion. And this is a really important piece because how do you include people that have been excluded from society for 5, 10, 20 years in some cases? So this is something that we thought was really important, that this building be part of that inclusionary process. Another aspect that happens at the ends of the floors here is a meditation space. One of the things that we learned about the guys in the program is that they were learning sort of how to deal with sort of conflict in different ways. Instead of in a confrontational way, sometimes there needs to be an evasive opportunity to just go take some time and just breathe free, right? And so we created these spaces where, you know, if there was too much going on or if there was a tense or a stressful situation, they would have an area to retreat to be able to go and work out those things. They pray, they meditate, all those kinds of things can take place in these little spaces. They're very well used. And then this is the ultimate top floor here. This piece is called Future Change. And it really talks to these guys wanting to make a change and to return back to society, full and whole and healed. So as you guys know, this is the exterior of the building. This is what it looks like sort of at dusk. This is a daytime image. At the bottom there on the corner is that community room that we looked at. If you turn and you go down the driveway, this is what it looks like as you turn to the rear of the building, the rear facade. We want it to be colorful. We want it to be dynamic. You can start to see the play area in the back. Again, came out of the situation where the guys talked about their kids so much and we wanted to make this a family-friendly space. So there's a nice little lawn out there that you can run around, and there's a little toddler area. And then there's a comfortable seating area. This is sort of looking at the area that's going down, the ramp that goes down into the garage on the rear of the building. This is my favorite part because it shows, it begins to show the solar panels that we have 122 Hanwha Q cells pointed at a 10-degree angle facing due south. They produce about 40 kilowatts of peak power, and they've averaged on a monthly average, it's been about 3.3 megawatts per month for the past year. So it's something that we think is important for all buildings, that we begin producing our own electricity and energy to cut down on our carbon footprints. And we think that technology is something that's important to be shared and to integrated into all spaces, not just for the wealthy or the elite, but for everyone. Every single project should have access to the types of technologies that are going to bring us into the future. So thank you again for the chance to serve. And we look forward to the next opportunity to work with you guys.